Welcome to the Stoic Bodywork podcast, where we focus on balancing the body, opening the mind, and awakening the spirit. I'm Octavia, your co-host. Just a quick reminder, all the information shared here is for general informational purposes only and isn't intended as professional, medical, or legal advice. All right, let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of the Stoic Bodywork podcast. We are continuing our 100 question series about all things Stoic, all things bodywork. We're into functional training and the Stoic methods. That's the next set of questions. So let's grab Octavia here and get right into it. Octavia, question number 46, please.
Question 46. What is functional training and what makes it different from conventional gym training?
So this is maybe a little bit of a hot topic in modern exercise. So functional fitness is something that's been around for a really long time, actually. And it's gotten broken into many different things. We have this tendency to break things into multiple categories to kind of try to find, it's mostly marketing, find like a niche or find like a different way to explain something or a different way to market or sell something. Functional training is everything from bodywork to calisthenics. Functional is the key piece to functional, I should say it that way. The key piece to functional training is that it's based on general activity or the way the human system should be used to accomplish a task. This is not athletic training. Athletic training is training specific for a sport, or even farther than that, specific for a role on a team in a sport. So if it's an individual sport, it might be track and field is a perfect example. In track and field, I might be doing athletic training for a runner or a sprinter. Maybe it's long distance or it's sprinting. Maybe it's javelin, or maybe it's shot put, or maybe it's, any one of the different parts of track and field. That's specific athletic training. Functional training is occupational training. Just being able to get yourself up or down to the floor. A lot of times when we talk about senior fitness, we're really talking more about functional fitness. Hey, are you able to fall correctly? Are you able to get up from a fall? Are you able to get down to the floor and get up from the floor? Are you able to pick up your grandkids? Are you able to carry the bags in from the car? Functional fitness varies, and that's why I think it has been narrowed down a lot. And so the major difference between conventional gym training and functional training is that functional training I should say it this way. All training needs to be fascially based, in my personal opinion. Functional training is generally fascially based. Specific gym training or conventional gym training, barbells are stupid. I'll be the first person to tell you. A barbell is a stupid way to train. It doesn't make any sense that you're loading the spine to do an action that is not natural. Yes, it really puts strain on the muscles, and the muscles have to work, and then the muscles grow bigger and get stronger. It's an inefficient action, though. It's linear, it's bilateral, and it's loading the spine. It's all the things you really don't want to be training if you want to be able to move efficiently. We want to do unilateral training for efficiency. We want to do hinge action without loading the spine for efficiency. We don't want to be doing those specific actions with a barbell because they don't make you better at anything. Most athletes out there doing barbell training, unless they are an Olympic lifter or a power lifter, someone who's training to actually do the lifts for competition, don't need to be using a barbell. You can get the same results out of training without a barbell as you can with it. The big number go up is ridiculous, and it doesn't help anyone. It's just something that's been sold, and a bunch of gym bros out there want to, big numbers. Cool. Look, I've been in the 300-pound bench group. It doesn't make me special. All right. Picking 500 pounds up off the floor doesn't make you special. It makes you really good at that one specific lift. Most of those people have bad knees, blown out backs, disc surgery necessary. Like, they have so many issues that we go back to this thing called functional training. Functional training alleviates issues. It prevents issues. It's preventative. It makes your body work efficiently. It works with the fascial system, and you still get strong. It leads all the way up into calisthenics. I'd rather somebody be able to tell me, like, if you come to me and say, hey, I can lift 500 off the floor, that's really cool if that's what you want to do. Like, I don't want to be offensive in that way, but it makes you special as far as, like, yeah, there's a category, that's a crazy number that you can lift off the floor. But my question is, what's the point? What are you trying? If you're just trying to do that and you accomplish that, awesome for you. You accomplish a goal for yourself. If somebody comes to me and says, Phil, I can do a flag post stand, where they hold their one arm above the other arm, and then I'm like, that's ridiculous. The amount of muscles that go into that, and like, calisthenics are really interesting, and it's the efficient way in which the body moves. Functional training leads to calisthenic. Calisthenic training is actually the higher level of training. People want to say they're training calisthenically. That's not where you start. That's just like pulling the 500 pounds off the floor. You don't start there. That's where you might end up, but you don't start there. We start with body weight. We start with balance and stabilization. We start with building up the ankles, building up the knees, building up the hips, making sure that the lower back can, control the spinal rotations. We work on the erector group. We work on the deep core muscles, the deep core lines. And then we move up into the efficiency of how well the limbs can work. So the major difference between functional fitness and conventional gym training is conventional gym training tends to break people. Functional fitness is what we use to either put them back together or prevent the injury, while also making them strong. Conventional is conventional, and it's it's bilateral and typically single action driven. Functional fitness is unilateral and bilateral when necessary, and rotational and fascially driven. So I think functional fitness is the way of the future. I think everyone should be training functionally. Even if you're an athlete and want to train for a specific athlete outcome, whatever your position is or whatever your sport is, you should still be starting with functional training. And then you can go and be very specific about, like, oh, you play volleyball and you're a middle blocker and you really need to jump. Okay. But did we strengthen your ankles to allow for that? Did we strengthen your knees? Make sure your spine is ready to take impact at that level constantly. Make sure the calves are working correctly, making sure you can do your rotational piece, your side shuffle, making sure you can change position, making sure that you can reach left or right to make you a more effective blocker, not just be able to jump high. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on about that, but the major difference between functional training and conventional training, if I want to be smart about it, be a little bit of a smart ass, is, conventional training breaks people and functional training is what helps prevent or put them back together. That's probably all we're going to get into a little bit more of that as we go here. That's kind of like the overarching question in this whole series, but, number 47, please.
Question 47. Why do you pair bodywork with functional training rather than treating them as separate disciplines?
So bodywork supports a lot of things, and functional training is the second part. This goes into the hierarchy on the Stoic Bodywork methods. We start with acute care. Acute care might be the fixing you up after you sprained your ankle, or getting you out of pain. Maybe you needed a surgery. Maybe you needed to, have Western medicine intervention. That's acute care, right? You can think of acute care very simply as you cut your finger, you clean the wound first. We don't just put a Band-Aid on it. We clean the wound first. So acute care is the first thing we do. Acute. Then we go to then we go to desensitization. So we have acute care, then we have desensitization. Bodywork is typically where the desensitization can occur. And if desensitization doesn't occur, we are stuck in a loop. Your body is going to keep coming back to this: I am broken. I am injured. I need to protect this. I need to stop this person from doing this. That's what the body is designed to do via the fascial system and the neurological system and how they all work together. It's much smarter than us. So the acute care happens, then desensitization must happen before we can do the following three: balance, stabilization, and strengthening. Now, when we talk about bodywork and functional training accomplishes all three of those last pieces: balance, stabilization, and strength training. And it can do them nearly at the same time because it's doing the balance and stabilization part, because we're working with mobility and flexibility, mobility range of the joint, flexibility range of the muscle, the strength coefficient of the muscle. The longer the muscle, the stronger it can be, right? That's why we have people, I know I'm going all over the place on this one, but I want everybody to know, going back to that conventional training and functional training thing, bodybuilders are not great athletes. No offense to them. They are amazing aesthetic athletes. They have done something. Their sport is aesthetics. Make a muscle look a certain way and be able to flex it on stage. That's crazy amazing, and it's like 1% of the populace. So I'm not against bodybuilding. I think it's an amazing sport. They're not great athletes because they never trained to be athletes. They didn't train first step takeoff. They didn't train broad jumps for, this, that, or the other thing. They didn't train powerlifting even. Like, they don't power lift, so they're not great power lifters. They didn't train Olympic lifts. They might do some Olympic lifts. This is where like the CrossFit and the High Rocks and all this other nonsense that's out there, this is just a way of doing something that's a set of rules that people can compete under. It doesn't make it like the best fitness thing. Functional fitness is whatever fits best for the person. If someone comes to me with a genetic code or a build, and honestly, shout out to Sammy Murfit and Bear Fitness, because they talk about this a lot. Like, Sammy is a bodybuilder, and she's an amazing bodybuilder. And she has now found a category that fits her body the best, right? So now we have, she was competing in bikini, and now she is competing in fit model. And for a long time, they had this new wellness category, and she tells this all way better than I do, and she explains it. So go check out her Instagram, Sammy Murfit. Sammy was kind of in like a gray zone. She didn't really fit the bikini, what they're looking for on stage. And she didn't quite fit the wellness of, she would have done a ton of work. Genetically, they wanted you like bigger in the lower body, and she would have to do a ton of work to bulk out for that. And now they have this new thing called Fit Model, which she actually, like, that's what fits her genetic code and the way she trains and how she can train. So she now has a category. That's a whole thing in bodybuilding. If you don't fit the category, it's really tough to compete because you have to do all this extra work. It's no different than if I look at, let's take soccer out on the pitch. I have forward strikers and I have defenders, right? If I put a wing striker on defense, they might be fast, they might be this, but they might not fit the role perfect. The number one to look at is any midfielders in soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, anyone who's playing midfield, right? A midfielder must be able to change direction really quickly and have massive takeoff speed. That's all we train them for. We train them for being able to change direction and then have a huge takeoff to be able to catch the play or break away from the play. That is a specific type of body that does really well with that. And we can train it to a certain extent. And so there's no difference in any of these things. High Rocks, CrossFit, bodybuilding, sport athletics, they're all athletes in some way. And what they're doing is they're competing in a set of rules. The key thing here is this is all athletics. And so functional fitness is more about everyday life and the first building block to become an athlete. It's the number one thing I think that is skipped, as well as body work. And that is why Stoic puts them together. You must be doing work on the fascial system to reprogram it, and then training that fascial system. And if you don't do the two together, you don't get the correct outcome. So even if I fix someone's hip imbalance, or I get their glutes to start firing correctly because they weren't, if they're not going and doing the functional training work that would keep that happening correctly, or to make them more efficient at it, not working. No different than someone who comes in, the everyday, person who just plays pickleball or, hangs out on the weekends with their friends or something like that. Or, someone who's been in a very physical job or not physical job. Maybe they've been sitting a really long time in an office work and they have lower back problems and they have SI joint issues. If I get that all corrected and they don't go do something that is going to continue to do that balance, stabilization, and strengthening, even if I've desensitized the area, it is still prone to injury. So the functional fitness is the next piece of that. And that's why they're very much combined together. And as much as they are their own individual thing, I don't separate them in the Stoic bodywork methods because they're required to work. They work synergistically. I should say it that way. They work completely synergistically, and one makes the other one better. Someone who trains here at Stoic and gets bodywork gets the best result. It's hands down the thing we see the most often. Yeah, I get great results with bodywork, and Stacy gets great results training people. But when they combine together, we get the best results. Next question, please.
Question 48. What does Stacy's approach to training bring to the Stoic model that pure bodywork doesn't address?
So we kind of started talking about that in the last question there. And so this is kind of that leading into Stacy brings functional training to the equation. She's a master of rotationals and doing compound movements, which is purely functional. She has learned how to incorporate fascial movement and fascial training into general programming. And she knows how to work with a client who has specific things that they need to be working on, right? Not everybody needs PT, but PTs are out there. Go see your PTs if you need them. Follow your Western medical system. If you're in that system, then you're in that system. But PT only happens when you have an injury. Well, what about before that? What do we do before that? We need to get the body ready to do whatever action they need to be doing. And so she has a way of sitting down with someone and going over the way of like, how do we want to train this person, right? She doesn't just jump into it. She doesn't just be like, hey, go deadlift, go squat, go power clean, go, do this, go do that. She knows how to look at what the goals of the individual are and then break it down into accomplishing those goals. The other thing she brings to the equation is I'm not a trainer. I have trained people in the past, but I'm not a trainer. And so she brings all of the knowledge of actually how to train someone, how to cue them correctly, how to look through what they're doing and make sure they're doing it safely and correctly, as well as all this other functional training, fascial training, like all of these other pieces. She actually invented what we call the STACE, the STACE, the Stoic training methodology that advances the McGill 3. The McGill 3 is a great way to start, but eventually that stops being effective and you need more. So she created a whole protocol that takes the McGill 3 and advances it into a more rigorous, more design, like more driven functional movement with bands and the same movement sets, but with different restrictions on the body to help train different pieces of that fascial system. So Stacy's approach to training has evolved with Stoic and the body work I do, but my body work has also evolved because of the things I've learned with her. So it's a very synergistic approach. She's helped write the Stoic bodywork protocols. She would probably deny all of this because she doesn't know how wonderful and amazing she is, especially as a trainer. She also brings the personality. If we're being honest, I'm a pretty I'm logic, rigid, boom, boom, boom. She brings the personality. She understands people. And she also brings a level of experience I don't have. I didn't play D1 sports. She did. I'm not a mother. She is. She has family. She has, she does all these things. She understands people at a human level. The number one thing she does that she brings to the Stoic bodywork methods is understanding someone at a human level and addressing them as a human. I break things into the biomechanical and the, again, logic and rigid. And so she's really good at taking the research that I'm doing and bringing it in and actually using it. Like, oh, this works. This doesn't, like the way we're putting this doesn't work. And so I can frustrate her, I'm sure, with being so hyperlogical on the fascial side of things. But yeah, so she brings a ton to the Stoic model that pure body work cannot accomplish. She is creating that ankle stability that is going to solve that knee rotational issue. She's going to strengthen the knee so that the hip doesn't have to stop the rotational issue. Doing the progression, right? Doing the 6-week progression. Healing takes a long time. And I get great results with bodywork and people are like, jump off my table and they're like, oh, I feel amazing. I'm like, for right now, in the next 72 hours, that could change. And then people have to come back. And she keeps people off my table when she does the work with them to train functionally so that their bodies adapt. The fascial system reprograms. It always comes back to this fascial reprogramming thing. And I would say that's the thing she brings to the table the most that bodywork can't always accomplish. I can get the body ready for programming and I can change some of the program. She does the programming with the client. I'm prepping it, the fascial system, and then she actually does the work with the client to get them programmed. And that's honestly, in some cases, probably more important than the body work I'm doing. So couldn't be happier to have her on the team. She's amazing. And she's advanced the Stoic Bodywork methods far more than she actually even knows or cares to even probably admit. So thank you, Stacy. Let's see. What's next question, please?
Question 49. How do you build a training program around someone who is in pain or post-injury?
This is a great way to combine the first set of questions here, right? So what does Stacy bring to that bodywork can accomplish, and what does bodywork do? This kind of is a great way to kind of put it together, right? So how do we build a training program around someone who's in pain or post-injury? Functionally, using a set of hierarchical things. Was acute care accomplished? Did a desensitization happen? Are they lacking balance? Are they lacking stability? If not, can we move on to strengthening? Right? That's the hierarchy. And so when you put that all together, you have to build a program around the pain sensations, because that's the sensitivity. And so if I'm not accomplishing enough desensitization on the bodywork side, then we'd go back to the bodywork side, right? So we might be training someone and they might hit a hard wall and be like, this is really painful and I can't really train. We shut that. If it's sharp, shut it down. That is a hard rule we follow. If it is sharp, shut it down. Sharp pain is the neurological system telling you, whoa, not a good movement, not the right way to be doing this movement, not ready for this movement. Dull, achy, burny, that's the bone. We talked about that last time. So last episode, if you didn't listen to that episode, we talked about all these pain sensations. Sharp, stabby, dull, achy, burny, sore, tender, zingy, all this stuff. Those are the signals, right? So if someone has pain, that is the conversation that their body is having with them to tell them what's going on. And we need to write the program for training around that conversation. It's no different than if you walk into a boardroom and you want to have a conversation about the bottom line. I got to sit back and be like, well, run me through the top line first, right? Like, how does money come in and how does money go out? Because that's what makes the bottom line. And so time under tension, which we're going to get to in one of these questions, that equals strength training, or the coefficient to increase volumetric of the muscle to increase strength. Time under tension. If time under tension has a pain sensation, shut it down, because the body is shutting it down. The body only sees the pain sensation, doesn't see sharp and stabby supersede sore and tender. Sharp and stabby is what the body's going to respond to. It's not going to respond to sore and tender. As soon as you feel a sharp pain, then the body's responding to that injury now and not protein synthesis. Not going to send RSK signaling. Probably doesn't even care about AMPK signaling, although you could go to cardio at that point. But if you're running and you feel it, right, you get a sharp pain and your body's telling you to stop running, the AMPK signal for burning calories isn't even really going to come around, because now your body's going into fight or flight mode, panic mode. Something's wrong. What do we do? Right? And they keep causing me this pain sensation and they're not listening. We're not listening to the conversation. So that's why, so that's the reason that building a training program around it is really important. So we build it around, what are the sensations you're getting? What's the subjective? How do we objectively change that? Is it a good pain? That's another conversation to have. What kind of pain should we be training through? Sharp, shut it down. But if it's sore, tender, dull, achy, burny, maybe something's not seated correctly. Maybe we go to the mobility and flexibility. It curves what the path is, right? So if we're getting some pain sensation in this action, if we increase mobility, range of motion of the joint, does that go away? Cool. Now we need to focus on mobility. If we increase flexibility, range of motion of the muscle, does that go away? Cool. It does. Oh no, it doesn't? All right. Well, we got to look at the mobility and the flexibility side. Neither of those changed it. Maybe we need to go back to body work and see what's happening at that level. Oh, okay. Mobility works. We do that. Flexibility. So it's the pain sensation is going to curve what we're doing. If we're getting a pain sensation in an action that is very specific to, let's say, an athlete, and they're doing an action, maybe it's batting, or maybe it's volleyball with hitting, or any one of the sport specific actions. If we're getting a pain sensation during that, then maybe we have to look at, are we overtraining? Are we doing too many repetitive tasks on a joint that is worn out? Maybe it's diet based. Pain tells us what we need to be looking at, right? If you're not having the conversation about pain in your training if you're an athlete out there and you're not telling your trainers about pain, or your trainers are ignoring you, you got to get on top of this, because the pain is the conversation. The pain is telling you how you need to be training or how you shouldn't be training, or what's missing in the equation of training. So it really sets you up either for success or failure. And you have to focus on those sensations, because they really need to be. So to answer that question, how do you build training programs around someone who is in pain or post-injury? We listen to the pain signals and we talk it out to figure out how to do the training correctly. That's how we start with, what is the pain saying? We don't try to work around it, to get around it. We're not trying to get around the pain. We're trying to figure out what the pain is telling that person, telling that body, so that we can help that body not be in pain, but still accomplish the outcome. Next question.
Question 50. What movement patterns do you consider non-negotiable foundations for everyone?
All right, so this gets into the Stoic Bodywork methods as a whole. In the Stoic Bodywork methods, we focus on 3 specific movements. We focus on the carry, hinging without loading the spine, and lunging. So lunges, carries, hinging without loading the spine. Those are the 3 most important actions, right? Everything we do is unilateral. We are not bilateral. We bilaterally functional, but we unilaterally move. We have independent function. We can move our limbs in different independent movements. And so if we're always training bilaterally, then we're typically loading the core spinal column, and that's not what we want to do. That's why I say barbells are stupid. We don't want to load the spine. We want to twist the spine. That's actually part of the Shaolin methods. We want to be able to twist the spine, because the spine likes to be wrung out. It likes to have certain movement flexion. It's why it is highly articulative. We don't really, everyone wants to think like spines, like, oh, okay, keep the spine straight. And no, don't load the spine. You don't have to keep your spine straight. Your spine isn't straight. It's built-in curves. Kyphotic, lordotic, cervical curve. They're built in. The lordotic, kyphotic, and cervical curve are built in. Our necks, our mid-spine, C-spine, and then into the lumbar. Even the sacrum has a little bit of curve on it. And each one of the vertebrae has a functional, it moves in all directions. Vertebrae move in all directions. They have hard limits, right? So in the T-spine, we have the dorsal piece of the spine itself. So the dorsa keep us from flexing back on that side. And so the spinal column has a limitation of flexion, but it is fully flexible and it moves in all sorts of crazy ways. Every vertebrae has all these different little muscles that do it, the multifidum, the multifidi. All of these little tiny muscles. Then it has the big erector group, which protects the spine. It's like the armor of the back. All of that articulation means it's supposed to be articulated. Humans are designed to move. That's part of the problem. We are designed to move. And if the spine is designed to move in all sorts of weird, cool, articulative ways, then we're supposed to do that. The one thing it's not designed to do, and actually in anatomy and physiology, we know this because it tells us what the thing does, is a disc. It's not meant to be compressed. It's designed to defend against compression. We have the erector groups, which are long muscles that are very strong, that hold the spine upright and protect it. We have the multifidi and multifidum to find small articulative ways for the spine to be in more comfortable positions. And then we have these things called discs that sit in between each vertebrae to protect the vertebrae from touching. It's designed to keep them from touching each other. Why do we keep compressing spines? It doesn't make any sense. Stop compressing spines. Stop loading spines. Hinge, though, we are designed to hinge. We're designed to be able to bend over. We're designed to be able to do all sorts of hinging action. We literally have a bendy piece right there, the femur and the hip socket. Remember, femurs are femurs, hips are hips. They are separate to each other. It's ball joint, designed to hinge over. And not only is it able to hinge over, we have the tailbone, which then does the flexion, and then we have the spine, and it can roll over. So we are designed to be able to bend over and hinge. That doesn't mean you should load the spine during that action. The other thing we're designed to do is walk. Remember, bodies are designed to walk, designed to move, hinge, and lunge. Huge. I know. Crazy. Who knew? Hinging and lunging is the 2 sets of actions that the body needs to be able to do to be able to function correctly. And then we have what we call the carries, because that's what we do. We carry things. We carry ourselves and we carry load. So That's why the three major movements of the Stoic Bodywork method are the lunge, hinging without loading the spine, and the carry. Those three things, if you just did any set of workouts, if you did those three workouts all the time, body weight and loaded, you'd be super healthy. I can nearly guarantee it. All of Shaolin martial arts does some methodology of that. We do a lot of lunging, low stances, deep work, carries and movement, and it's all built into the system. That's why Shaolin monks don't even have to grab weights. They just get healthy. So yeah, to sum that one up, what are the most common? What movement patterns do you consider non-negotiable foundations for everyone? First is the lunge, then the hinge without loading the spine, and then the carry. So that's walking, bending over, and moving with load. Those are the three most important pieces. Next question.
Question 51. What are the most common movement dysfunctions you see, and how do you correct them?
Can anybody guess I'm about to answer this one? Bad hinge, bad lunge, bad carry. Right? You just reversed the things that I built the whole system on. Or I should say we. Stacey helped with this very much. I was very much a no hinging whatsoever. Like I didn't like, because barbells that I think is stupid. But she brought to the point that like hinge is important. Everybody's got a hinge bend over. I'm more of like a straight squat, right? So like bring the squat down, elbows outside of the elbows and knees should meet. The elbows should be outside the knees. You should squat down over hinging. But actually, she was right. A hinge is a squat. Squat is a hinge. So the most dysfunction is rotation of the spine, which is typically because we overloaded it, right? So we have the SI joint that doesn't work correctly. We have vertebrae, either cervical, kyphotic, or a lot of curve issues. And then we have bad carry, so not able to efficiently use the body as far as loading it. And then bad lunge, which is honestly walking. So it's unilateral function of the walk or the movement of the legs, so being able to load. Now, the lunge is important because gravity, floor up. If you can't lunge correctly, you can't squat correctly. You're not able to distribute load and find a different distribution pattern that is balanced and stable. Remember, we always start with balance and stabilization and then strengthening. If you're doing pure strength work, if you're not doing any balance or stabilization work, you are going to get injured. I can nearly guarantee it. And you're not actually strengthening the things that you should be strengthening. You are going to hit a hard cap. Bodybuilders, if you want to be better, power lifters, Olympic lifters, athletes, everyday person, everyone benefits from more balance and stabilization. Oftentimes we call that core. This is why I'm not saying core is one of the top things of dysfunction. A lot of people have weak cores because they don't use unilateral functional or rotational movements. The core also controls the spine. Your spine, your lumbar spine is in the center of your abdominal. It's in the very center. So is the cervical. The cervical spine, like we talk about, if you palpate your spine, if you touch the back of your neck, if you touch your back, that is the dorsal portion, the posterior portion of the spine. But remember, the spine has depth to it. So it actually goes forward. So your anterior spinal areas are typically centered to your mass. So I see a lot of dysfunction from those movements. The common movement dysfunctions are because you have a bad lunge, bad carry, or a bad hinge, or because you're overloading the spine typically. And that, how do I correct them? Well, we do it through body work to get the desensitization taken care of, and then we do the functional training to reprogram the fascia to do the work correctly. If you're over anterior fascia, or if you're posterior fascia, if you're too much front chain, if you're too much back chain, if your rotational chains are weak, so there's the training is almost you can think of it more like fixing posture to make sure the action is happening correctly. But it usually starts with figuring out what the dysfunction is and then training your way out of it, or doing the body work to help the body reprogram first. Next question, please. Forgive the interruption of the episode, but I have a couple things I really want to tell you about. One is Stoic Sleep. I created Stoic Sleep to help get to sleep and to get better recovery out of my sleep. Sleep is one of the most important things we do when it comes to health and wellness. Number one performance drug, and also the only time we do oxidative stress repair, specifically at the DNA and RNA levels. So if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. And if you're not healing, you can't gain all of the awesome things you do from training. So I tested it for a year, and I've now released it to the public. Thank you, Pure Bulk, as the manufacturer, for making that possible. Grab a jar at stoicbodywork.com/stoic sleep today. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I take it every night, and I love it. So get some great sleep. Grab a jar of Stoic Sleep.
Question 52. Why do so many people train hard for years and still feel broken?
Because they trained hard for years. All right, man, I'm trying to get myself into a lot of trouble here. A lot of people train incorrectly because they never take a break. And a break doesn't mean you have to stop. And I mean this at every level. Let's just start basic. If you're not taking at least one active rest day a week, you're wrong. You are incorrectly training. I'm not sorry for saying that. If you are training 7 days a week and not taking an active rest day, it doesn't mean you have to sit on the couch and eat fucking Cheetos. It means you have to. An active rest day means like, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to do some yoga. I'm going to do something, something light. You can still move and still be active rest day. But if you're lifting and doing agility and cardio and VO2 maxing, if you're doing that 7 days a week, you're not healing, right? You're not healing. Start with your sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're not healing. And so all your training is, you're just leaving gains on the table. Your body is on like a backlog. I nearly guarantee. No, I actually guarantee. Fuck it, I'll guarantee this. And I'm sorry I'm cursing a lot on this one. These questions are starting to get me heated. Because people have been doing this stuff wrong for years, and there's a lot of crappy information out there on social media. And like, just because somebody's fit and looks sexy, quote unquote, doesn't mean they have any idea what they're doing. They know how to train themselves to look a certain way. It doesn't make them agile, doesn't make them functionally fit, doesn't make them strong. It just means they know how to look good in a bathing suit. That's it. There are some people out there that are finally coming around and being like, oh, that doesn't matter. That's whatever. If you want to aesthetically train. And if you want to aesthetically train, go find someone who professionally aesthetically trains. If you just want to like be healthy, go find someone who knows how to be healthy and train with them. Make sure they have certifications though, because there's a lot of variables in genetics and all sorts of other things. Injury, post-lateral, injury functionality, right? So post-lateral, so post the injury, lateral function of movement, bilateral sympathy is what we call it in bodywork. If they don't know what that means, I guarantee they don't know how to train you correctly if they don't know what bilateral sympathy means, because they might run into a hard wall and they're not unilaterally training you. And because they're not unilaterally training you, your body is holding you hostage. It's holding you from being able to accomplish that movement because one side can't do it. It's called bilateral sympathy. Look it up. It happens in pain function and dysfunction, but also it happens in training function. If you're not unilaterally training an action, then that action, even if you're getting a little bit better on that one side, you're not training the other side correctly. And so your body is hard limiting you because it doesn't know how to keep up with that other action. It's a whole thing. Huge in sprinting. Sprinters who don't unilaterally train are leaving performance on the table because the body is using a unilateral action to propel itself forward. So if one side is weaker than the other, it's not compensating and using more drive on your dominant side. It's already doing that. And so if the other side is more weak, then it is then limiting that drive action on the positive side, on the force projection side. So you can be a dominant sided athlete, but if you're not unilaterally training, your dominant side is staying weaker than it probably could be because it's still trying to compensate for the other side because it knows there's a weakness there. Bodies are smarter than you are. You got to train that way. I'm sorry, I got far afield on that one. Let's bring it back. Why do so many people train hard for years and still feel broken? Boom. Honestly, that's kind of what I just described. If you're training hard for years and you're not taking restorative action by taking either at least one active rest day a week or one, we got science on this. Take one deload week every 6 weeks or do some sort of deload cycling in which the neurological can catch back up. Making sure your nutrition is at the enough level. Like what you do training wise, honestly, doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't. like you can train hard all day long and get no gains, still be, unhealthy. Like you gotta get the other hard parts. The training's the easy part. And yes, I know for a lot of people, it's hard and it's annoying to get in the gym. Don't start there then. Start in the kitchen. Start with your sleep hygiene. Health and wellness is a big picture. It's not one picture, right? Just because you got big biceps, you might have scrawny little legs. Sorry, that's a meme. But like, you have to look at the whole picture. Is your sleep hygiene good? Is your gut biome health correct? Are you getting proper nutrition? Then you can train hard. Not before. Just training hard. Everybody's out there trying to be the Mickey Mantle gene, right? Like Mickey Mantle's out there like smoking cigarettes and drinking beers and hitting home runs. That's a genetic abnormality. So is nearly every professional athlete out there. Another big one, right? The general populace, the 1% plays sports at a professional level. Everyone else is not a professional sports player. We all got to go to work. We got to, if I was paid to work out every day, I would probably be pretty good at something. I might not actually be professional. My genetics, it would probably have to be something lifting based or combat based. It's definitely not going to be speed based. I probably won't be able to slim down that much. This is that conversation I was talking about with Sammy, right? So Sammy Murfit, like she finally now has a bodybuilding category that fits her so she can do that professionally. It's a really crazy equation, everybody. And it starts with all the not fun things. Sleep hygiene, gut biome health, balance and stabilization before doing any strengthening. All the not fun nutritional values. So if you're training hard and not getting enough nutrition, you're going to hurt yourself. If you're training hard and not taking active rest days or taking deload weeks, you're going to hurt yourself. That's why you still feel broken. You haven't healed. It takes time to heal. It takes about 72 hours for that soreness to disappear in the muscle group. It doesn't mean the muscle's healed yet. Right? Protein synthesis is an ongoing thing. It's not immediate. So you really need to, like, if you really want to be like super test this, then you need to go figure out what level and how fast your tissue on every level heals. This is immoral and unethical, so please don't go actually do this. And I don't think a lab could even get away with this. The Russians did it once when they figured out the Krebs cycle by taking a hot diode, electric diode, and burning people's skin and then measuring the fluid inside the burn inside the blister to notice that inflammation changes out about about 3 times every 24 hours, which is the Krebs cycle, the acetic acid cycle. Not the acetic acid, Krebs cycle, which is the citric acid cycle. That was more immoral and unethical. But all those people learned how fast they heal a blister. If you cut your skin, you learn how next time it happens. I'm not saying do this, don't harm yourselves. And if you have any mental health issues in which you think you should harm yourself, please seek out a medical professional as far as someone to talk to, or, it's totally worth it. I used to be suicidal. I'm not suicidal anymore because I learned that I was vitamin D3 deficient. I was not moving enough. I was living in a lifestyle that was not conducive to a healthy mental state. And I highly recommend, if you need to go talk to someone, go talk to someone. Now's the time. Go do it. We all want you to still exist. Your body wants you to still exist. There is help. It can get better. Just start with, cleaning up your room and taking a nice nap. Sorry, I'm getting all over the place on this. That's a big one for me. Mental health right there. Maybe you have to start there. Maybe you have to start with your mental health. Maybe you feel broken because your cortisol levels are too high because you're too stressed out all the time and you're chasing dopamine at the gym or out on your runs, and you just keep hammering your body over and over again, training hard, thinking that's the right thing to do, and you're not taking time to heal or get better. So maybe you have to start with your mental health and be like, why am I out there chasing dopamine, running in the rain, doing, 100 miles every week? What's the point, right? Maybe it's a spiritual thing. Ask a why question. Why questions answer spiritual questions. So if you got to ask why, that's probably a spiritual thing. Don't ask why if you don't want a spiritual answer. If you can train hard all you want, but if you're still feeling broken, the reason is because you're not healed. And it's at any one of the levels: physical, mental, spiritual. If it's on the physical level, it's sleep or nutrition or gut biome, or there's so many variables. I know it becomes overwhelming. Try to pick one. The ones I recommend starting with: balance and stabilization at physical training, getting ready for strengthening, making sure there's no sensitivities, functional training as we call it. Check in on your mental health, make sure that you're getting proper nutrition, your gut biome is working well, so that we know that your brain is working correctly. Talk to a medical professional or a psychological professional if you need to. All those things. So training is not just physical, people. 3 health bodies: physical health body, mental health body, spiritual health body. What level are you training at? And are you training too hard in any one of them? That's the question. Just start asking, and that will answer why you're still broken, even if you're training hard and, doing all that. Next question.
Question 53. What is the role of strength training in tissue health and injury prevention?
The last step. It's the last step. I'll say it one more time. Strength training is the last step of injury prevention and recovery. It's the last step of both. Strength training is pointless for injuries and injury recovery and injury prevention. Strength doesn't make you less likely to get hurt. It makes you more likely to get hurt. Balance and stabilization make you less likely to get hurt. Agility training, mobility training, flexibility training, all of that makes your body more capable of preventing the injury. The strength causes it. Here's a simple way to think about it. You're sleeping. You're nice and comfy. You're all getting some Z's, maybe having a nice dream. But you just kind of cocked your head into you got your neck into a kind of a weird position, but you're nice and comfy. You're still relaxed. Everything's going great. And then your muscle fires, but it's in stretch. Your muscle is in this long format stretch, and then it fires really quickly, fast twitch, muscle pull, even possible muscle strain. That is strength. The coefficient, strength is an equation. Strength is the coefficients of length, volume, and density. The denser the muscle, the longer the muscle, and the more voluminous the muscle, the harder it can contract, especially if its proprioception is good. So strength training doesn't have a lot to do with tissue health and injury prevention. I will digress and say that, okay, yeah, it can help tissue health, and it is a great marker for longevity. But strength training itself isn't specific to tissue health or injury prevention. It's the last step you do. We want mobility and flexibility. We want balance and stabilization. We want to protect the joints because the joints are doing the rotations. Injury typically comes around because a rotation went wrong and went awry. And so if we can do better rotational unilateral strength, okay, I'd give it to you on that one, but no one's training that way. So I'm taking this question from the standpoint of people think of strength training, I'm going to get my reps in, and that's not injury prevention. And it's not even injury recovery. It's training. It's strength training. That's the thing we do when we're healthy. We train when we're healthy, not to be healthy. To be healthy, we get proper nutrition, proper sleep, create good gut biome, make sure our mental health is working correctly, check on our cortisol, serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. We make sure the body is functionally cardiovascularly healthy by making sure we're doing some sort of cardiovascular training, making sure we have some sort of metrics as far as a subjective understanding of health and an objective understanding of measurements. And, can you touch your toes? Can you run a mile? Can you, how many push-ups can you do? All of these things. Strength training makes you stronger. Doesn't make you more healthy. Look at Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at all the strongman competitors, right? They're getting better now. Eddie Hall takes care of himself pretty well. Brian Shaw takes care of himself pretty well. We're seeing competitors now who understand I have to do all these things and really take care of myself. But when this stuff started off, the stronger you were, the more capacity you had for injury. You could just tear a bicep just flexing hard enough. So, what is the role of strength training in tissue health and injury prevention? It's the last piece. Not the first piece. Don't start there. Please don't start there. I'm going to get in trouble for so many things I say on this episode. Next question.
Question 54. How do you approach training for someone who is hypermobile?
This is a great answer to the previous question. I like how these all stack up. We don't strength train them. We decrease their mobility by strengthening their flexibility metrics. We have to figure out first. So now let's break this down, because I think a lot of people get this one mixed up a little bit. There's a difference here between mobility and flexibility. So hyper means above average or increase of. So hypermobility means they are more mobile than they should be. Here's one for you. Every pregnant lady in the world is hypermobile because her joints have now started to separate so she can give birth. Right? That's hypermobility. You might see hypermobility in someone who's like able to push their elbow too far or can bend their finger all the way backwards. But, big but here, flexibility can mask mobility and mobility can mask flexibility. So we have to be specific to see if it's hypermobility. Is it actually too much range of motion of the joints, or are they just very flexible? The dangerous part about hypermobility, too much range of motion of the joints, or an increased above average range of motion of the joints, means that they can be starting actions from a huge deficit and either straining the tendon, ligament, or muscle attachment, or not getting a proper action that they get anything in the strong range of motion because they have to start from such a light pull. So let's think about, like, if you're hypermobile, your weak range of motion, right? So let's talk about a bicep curl. So anybody who's done a preacher curl, like when you're a strict curl of the bicep head, or sorry, bicep heads, bicep means two heads, strict curl of the bicep. So the eccentric action in a preacher curl, because it's so isolated, if you're hypermobile and your elbow actually flexes past that point, you're in an even weaker beginning. So, somebody who's like goes and does like a preacher curl and they're like, oh, yeah, I can curl 45s. I can curl 50s. And all of a sudden they're doing 25s because you've isolated just the bicep. They've been shouldering their bicep curls forever. That might be a 15 on someone who's hypermobile then, because they're in such a weak range of motion that they have to get the joint the first thing they're pulling is the joint, and they're pulling it from a bad fulcrum. This gets into physics, right? So fulcrum, if I'm pulling across a joint, that's a fulcrum. If that joint is hyperextended, then I'm pulling across a fulcrum that is actually flexed in the wrong direction. I have to do more action, more work. What that means, though, is that at the strained load, at the stretched action, they're about to do an eccentric action, but they've just accomplished an eccentric action. So that muscle is in full lengthening. To go do the eccentric action, the shortening of the muscle fibers, physically, they have to pull really hard with load, which is what pulls ligament and tendon, and that separates, and then that causes problem. So you have to then get through that range of motion into then the strong range of motion. And so they start, let's use that preacher curl example. They start with a 15 and then they get in the curl, and then all of a sudden it becomes super light. And so they're actually not doing a lot of work at the strong range of motion to build up the muscle fibrils. So you have to be very careful how you train them. And you have to know if it's hypermobility or hyperflexibility, a combination of the two. What joints it's in and what joints it's not in. All of these things. Somebody who has SI joint dysfunction, which is hypermobility of the SI joints, is super careful with rotation, hinge, even lunge. So yeah, this is a complicated one, and I don't think a lot of people ever get tested to see if they're hypermobile or hyperflexible. And I don't think a lot of trainers know what the difference is, being completely honest. That's probably good enough for that one. Let's move on here. Sorry about the interruption, but I want to tell you about the course that I released recently. If you're interested in self-awareness or have heard anything ever about manifestation, I highly recommend checking out manifestationstatecraft.com. It's the in-between between Hustlecraft and that wishful thinking that doesn't really work. You can hustle all day long and get nowhere, and you can wish, and also get nowhere. But if you learn the skills that I talk about in the course, you can find the middle ground there and turn your hustle and effort into results, and turn that wishful thinking and imagination into the creation of your dreams. So make your imagination become reality at manifestationstatecraft.com. You can use code STOIC to get $50 off the full course, or just check out the free preview and see if you like it. Hope you check it out, manifestationstatecraft.com. Next question.
Question 55. What is your philosophy on load and progressive overload for people who have chronic pain histories?
If you have chronic pain histories and you are trying to accomplish progressive overload, you need to be doing it after desensitization, after stabilization, and after balance work to then strengthen. But balance and stabilization work require progressive overload. So it gets a little complicated. Progressive overload, or just load, needs to be tailored to the outcome. This is why functional training is so important, because Stacy will tell you the first thing she does is come up with a goal. We come up with a goal first, and then we try to accomplish that goal. And so load and progressive overload need to be aligned with the goal we're trying to achieve. Are we doing injury prevention? Are we doing injury recovery? Do they have a sensitivity? Do they not have a sensitivity? Do they have an imbalance? Do they have an instability? Do they have a strength metric that's not working correctly? How can I correct that? What are they actually training for? Are they an athlete? Are they just getting through daily life? Do they just want to play pickleball? Like the goal sets the load and the progressive overload. Now, progressive overload is important. Time under tension's one of the most important things we do for protein synthesis and to correct any one of the things I just talked about. But if they have a chronic pain history, we want to avoid the actions or overloading too quickly the thing that causes that sensitivity to re-aggravate. That's staying away from like how to actually use progressive overload and use load. When it comes to chronic pain histories, we're working around that. That goes back to the question when I talked about, we don't try to get around pain. We listen to the pain. That dictates what we should be doing. Next question.
Question 56. How do you determine when someone is ready to return to high-level training after a significant injury?
I don't determine that. I'll be completely honest. I'm not a medical professional. I don't determine that. And I think sometimes the athlete doesn't know how to determine that, so they look towards their professionals. I will give my opinion. I will try to help them out. Or I shouldn't say just professional athlete. Anyone really tries to, a significant injury. You are able to get back to training once the acute care and the desensitization has happened. And it isn't going to be the training level you were at. You have to build back up. One thing I do want people to know here, I think I'm gonna sidestep this question, and go into something I think is more important. If you've had a major injury and you're trying to recover from, or you're trying to get back to a certain level of training and you have a sensitivity or you require acute care, the injury doesn't wipe out everything you've already done. It doesn't. It doesn't wipe out everything you've already done. You're just going to start from a deficit, but unless you've atrophied completely, and I mean like we're bedridden for a long time, 12 to 18 months or something along those lines, your body remembers capacity. Just like, and the same thing about being, having fat cells. The reason it's really hard for someone who has a lot of adipose fat cell tissue and even visceral fat to keep the weight off is because the fat cell has a memory function of like how big it used to be, and it still wants to get back to that level, which is why time is the most important thing here. And you must give yourself grace and time. You must give yourself time to reprogram. We're not quick creatures, people. We're not. We're just not quick creatures. Our body uses a binaural cycle set. It looks at 6-week patterns that build 3-month patterns, and those 3-month patterns that build new sectional patterns per season. And so the body looks at one season, gets prepared for the next season. And when it's looking at that season, it looks at the functional things that it did before. So what your body did for 6 weeks that you redo for another 6 weeks, it will plan then to do for the next 6 weeks. Once it has accomplished those 3 6-week cycles, it has written a new program, because the first 2 6-week cycles, the first 3 months, was then the thing it looks at to do the next 3. And then if it looks at the last 2, 3, it goes to the next. It's always looking at the next season, next cycle. What did I do 3 months ago? What am I doing now to plan for the next 3? What did I do 6 weeks ago? What am I doing now to plan for the next 6 weeks? Right. So it's just, and then what did I do a year ago? What am I doing this year to plan for the next 3 years? Like, that's how the body works as a functional, mechanical, biomechanical factory and fusion reactor and all this other crazy stuff that our body does, this chemical reactor does. It's making plans and it's using data. And so if you had an injury, you've reset that data set and you've said like, oh, restart. Okay. Hard stop. We're now injured. And so you have to get through that first 6 weeks to start the next 6 weeks to get the body to plan for the next 6 weeks. You have to get 3 months under your belt and then do that next 3 months to plan for the next 3 months. So your body has all these stages of recovery that we don't really think about because we're like, oh, I'm fine. I can, nope, you're not there yet. Your body's not prepared for there to be yet. It's still trying to use resources to heal this thing that you think is healed. The body, I think, specifically in the modern era, is constantly triaging. We're honestly existing in an unhealthy state of triage. A lot of people are not healthy at all. We have a lot of chemicals in our foods. We have a lot of processed foods out there. We have vastly unnutritious foods. People's nutritional ideas are askew because we eat for taste and happiness because life is hard and we want our dopamine. We don't eat for nutrition and performance because we're not paid athletes. And even them, like, they don't know enough to do it correctly unless someone tells them, because why would they have the time? They're an athlete. They have to train, right? Doctors are so inundated on trying to pass their boards and not get sued. They've never educated themselves on how tissue actually repairs itself. And we leave that to the molecular bioengineer scientific side on the research side. The doctor doesn't know what the researcher's doing. The researcher could care less what the doctor's doing because they're trying to get their next research grant to continuing, the research to do the thing to help with the gene splicing to get rid of this disease that affects 3% of the populace, which is a very noble cause, but has nothing to do with health and wellness. Where are we as a society? Sick, unhealthy, unhappy, mental health epidemics across the board everywhere. Because the nutrition's bad, because the sleep pattern's bad, because the gut biome is bad, because the movement patterns are bad. You want to ask me why I start with functional training? Because everybody fucking needs it. Everyone's sick. Everyone's unhealthy. Everyone's unhappy. We live in a world where everything is just gone awry. Like, if I have to be the one to tell you this, I am actually sorry. And I'm getting a little emotional about it. The systems are broken. And they're breaking by the day. That does not mean you need to give up and doom and gloom and everything's terrible. It means you need to focus even harder on taking care of yourself and you and yours. Not just yourself, but the people around you that you can help and take care of in your communities and your families. But you need to take care of yourself. You need to get sunshine. You need to eat appropriately. You need to get rid of the snack crap food and eat healthy, real foods. You need to at least go for a walk and do some light exercise every week. You need to check in with yourself mentally and make sure that your mental cortisol levels are not affecting you too bad. Make sure you're getting good sleep. Make sure you need to talk to somebody if you need to talk to somebody. You also need to make sure that you have some sort of spiritual practice to start that process if you're not a spiritual person. Like, maybe it's just like a small little thing, like just checking in and making sure you're spiritually aware, because your mental health also has to do with your spiritual health, and your spiritual health has to do with your mental health. The whole system has to work together. Right? And I get it. Like, not everybody makes a lot of money and I'm privileged and blessed and blah, 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 blah. I'm tired of the conversations. We're all humans. Okay. Like, everyone needs to be taking care of themselves. And everyone needs to be acting like they're in a society. And if we have someone who's not, call them out. If it's someone who's near and dear to you, if it's someone local to you, if it's someone part of the community and you don't think they're causing any harm, just try to bring them back into the fold under the understanding of like, hey man, this is a society, you know, like you're a friend of mine, you know, I think like, hey, you want to go with a walk? You want to go for a walk with me? Like check in. How's your mental health? Like, you know, don't be an asshole, people. All right. But at the higher level of that, your government and your big picture society stuff and your power elites and, you know, your social media influencers who are just doing stupid stuff for views, it's bullshit. It's nonsense. Stop engaging. Stop. How do I put this? Curate your feeds. Okay. I know I'm going like really far afield on this. We had some questions to get through, but like this is more important. This is more important than anything I've talked about in these questions so far, other than like get good sleep, make sure your gut biome, make sure your nutrition's and protect your mental health, physical health, and spiritual health. Curate your feed. My feed is cool exercises, people doing interesting things in the research and like, you know, doctor level like research and like nutrition and workout and exercise and cats. I don't engage and business stuff. I like business stuff. I don't engage with anything else. Some girl doing something about how to get bigger glutes wearing a bikini top and, you know, like some like way too tight shorts. Get rid of it. Out of here. Don't care. It's not my girlfriend. It's not my, you know, I don't want to see it. Go away. You're not adding anything to the conversation. Girl in workout clothes who's sitting down and be like, hey, here's this really cool functional fitness method of like this rotational value thing that I came up with. And like, oh, if you know, I'm single loading this and like doing engage. Awesome. Cool. No problem. Like you didn't have to do it in the clothing, but if that's just what you're wearing, okay, like that's fine. You know, but the ones doing it for the sex appeal, no, out of here. People out there who are flexing in the camera being like, you want to lose 20 pounds right now? Yeah. Like, look at me. Like, come join my classes. Get the fuck out of here. You know nothing. You don't have a conversation with me. I'm going to make you look like a moron. All right. No offense to you. Get educated. That's all I'm asking you. Get a part of society. Don't just flex and say you can help somebody lose 20 pounds. That's nonsense. You're not helping anyone. Go get educated, then come back, then help people. Curate your feeds. Don't interact with the nonsense out there. Hit the little three buttons, little three dots and say, nope, not interested. Nope, not interested. Or block, or don't show me this. With the ones that you are interested in, watch the whole video, engage, leave a comment, you know, do that. If you're not subscribed to this podcast, you're not helping me. No offense. Just saying, like, if you're not subscribed, if you're not liking, if you're not commenting, no, my information isn't getting anywhere. I know this because like 23 people view each of these episodes. That's it. That's it. I'm doing this for 23 people who actually look at the episodes. Occasionally, you know, I'll get some views on a reel. That's it. Like the max number I've ever hit is 1.2 or 1.4 thousand views on any video I've ever done. Right. So either no one gives a shit about what I'm saying or no one's engaging with it. I don't know which it is. I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you though is you need to curate your feed, stop engaging with the bullshit, stop engaging with the nonsense, and actually be a member of society and engage with society going forward. Functional fitness, not doing stupid stuff in the gym, not, you know, wearing the skimpy clothing just for likes. Look, girl, you look good. You don't have to put on skimpy clothing. Just look good. Be like, let me talk about your mental health. Come talk to me about what's going on mentally that makes you think you have to do that just to make people like you. That's all nonsense. Get that out of here. Dude bro with his shirt off trying to flex in the mirror. Cool on you, man. But if you're just doing it for views, come on, dude. Like, no one cares. No one cares. All right. I'd rather you be like, yeah, like I help sick children and I'm a teacher. That's awesome to me. That's like, whoa. All right. Well, I don't do that stuff. That's cool. You flexing in the mirror, not helping society, not helping us. Sorry. I think it's cool if you're fit, but like, if you're just doing it for views, if you're just doing it for engagement, don't care. Stop, please. Like, when is society? Maybe I'm the one on the outside here. I don't know, and I've gone too far on this, and I've ranted. Let's just get back to the questions. You want to talk about depressed? I'm depressed on that stuff. It's just nonsense. I've cannot gain traction in this industry because it's already been ruined and everything's broken. That's what I was trying to say. And it's that way for everything. And I don't want you to despair over that. I want you to go fix yourself and fix you, because that's what you're responsible for. You're responsible for the body you inhabit. You're responsible for the mind that you're using. You're responsible for your spiritual being. You're responsible for it. Go do it. Next question.
Question 57. What does a proper warm-up actually accomplish physiologically, and why do most people do it wrong?
A proper warm-up only is there to create blood innervation. So we want to get blood flow to the muscles, which prepares them for action. That's all a warm-up is there to do. At a physiological level, we're just getting blood flow into the muscle group so that it's prepared to do action and doesn't have to then quickly catch up. That's it. Why everyone does it wrong is because they don't warm up enough. And it's called warm up for a reason. It's in the name. We just don't treat it that way. Like, you're warming up because you're doing something that moves your blood, and your blood is typically heated by your body, and so your body temperature increases. But we're just trying to move blood flow. We're trying to get blood flow into the area to get ready for action. That's it. That's all warm up is. Everyone's doing it wrong because they're not doing it. Or they're doing something that's more of a cool down than a warm up. Warm up should be active dynamic stretching, getting the heart rate up just a little bit. You're just trying to increase the heart rate a little bit. You don't want to be doing sprints as a warm up. All right. You don't want to be getting, and it's dependent to your action. If you're lifting that day, remember AMPK, RSK. Don't be doing some sort of cardio to get ready for your lift day. Get on the stair stepper. Do an incline walk on the treadmill. Just get the blood moving. Do body weight exercise of the activity you're about to do. That's the best way to do it. That's the one I would say most often is if you're a lifter, if you really like lifting, and I know I've bashed barbell lifting and all that stuff, but if you're a lifter, if you like lifting, you like doing lifts, do the body weight version of the lift. That's how you get ready for the action. We do that in martial arts all the time. We're always like, Shaolin method is like, you're doing Qigong is all about getting the awareness, the intention, which is predecesses Qi, which predecesses blood into the limb or the thing that I'm going to be using. That's what we focus on there. Yeah. Next question, please.
Question 58. What is the role of recovery in a well-designed training program, and how do most people get it wrong?
We talked about this earlier when I was talking about you'd have to take an active rest day, and you need to be taking a deload week. Typically every 6 weeks, you do a deload week. What is its role? To heal the tissue. To heal. That's its role. It's to give you time to heal and reprogram the system at its new level. So if your body doesn't agree that you have more muscle on you than you do, it's not going to use it. Called proprioception. Strength coefficient. How hard you can flex that muscle is the other part of that equation. Volume, length, and density of the tissue is divided. So volume, length, and density on top divided by mind-body connection, or the ability, or proprioception. So the mobility and flexibility and the engagement of the muscle. That's the equation for strength. I'll say it again. On the top, we have length, volume, and density of the tissue divided by mobility, flexibility, and or what's known as proprioception of that muscle. If the body tells me that I can't flex it, I'm not going to flex it. If I can't make the mind-body connection, I'm not going to be able to flex it as hard. If the density is low, if the length is short, and if the length, density, and volume, if the volume is small, it's not going to be very strong. No, that's too far. That one's too far. Those are your strength coefficient metrics, right? So if we talk about the role of recovery is what allows your body to agree to, the muscle is this long. The muscle is this voluminous. They spent 6 weeks doing a strength training modality in which they were trying to increase volume of the muscle set. hey, this muscle's bigger than it used to be. Interesting. Okay, body's figured. All right, so now the body agrees to that. It says, oh, you have done some protein synthesis here. This muscle is bigger. Okay, so maybe it's longer. Maybe we've increased flexibility and the muscle's gotten longer. Or maybe we increased the volume, or maybe it's 3 years on, and you're finally having muscle density. The fibril bundles. Oh, there's actually more. There's not the muscle isn't just more voluminous. It doesn't have more space to move in. It actually has more spindles and more fibrils. Oh, okay, it's denser. This can definitely do more reaction. Oh, the ligament and the tendon is actually stronger and it has more connection to the bone, so I can actually pull harder. Or they've increased some mobility in there, so I can get a faster twitch reaction, or because I have more proprioception across the joint, or or I have a more mind body connection. Maybe it's a couple years on and you finally get to a deload week and you're like, oh wait, I can really, all right. This is why you need a flex in the mirror now and then. Turn on that mind body control. So that's the role of recovery. Is in a well-designed training program, it's the incremental agreement of the changes your body is making. Is why scales don't usually matter. Measurements are better, but also just doing normal metrics, like we do the McGill 3 and then we do the Stace. We measure that. Like, this is why we do progressive overload. This is why we keep we always are constantly keeping measurements of like what happens. How much did they lift? How many reps did they do? How many sets did they do? How often did they do it? What was the rest period? What was that's all metrics and necessary because it takes the body so long. Remember that 6 weeks, then 6 weeks, then 6 weeks, 3 months, then 3 months, then 3 months, 1 year, then another year, then another. Like even the 3-year patterning is different that way. Don't even get me into the 33-year patterning. So that's the role of recovery and all of that, is to make sure the body agrees to the changes that we're trying to make. Next question.
Question 59. How do you program for someone with an asymmetry or structural difference that isn't going away?
It depends on if it's not going away because of something else, right? So if they literally physically have a leg that is actually longer than the other, that is a condition. Sometimes it's just the hip height, and then we can try to fix that. Is there an injury? What kind of imbalance? What repetitive tasks are they doing that's causing that to constantly stay out of balance? Asymmetry is tough because the asymmetry has to do with, is it structural? Is it musculoskeletal? Is it injury or neurological? So you have to figure out where the asymmetry is coming from, and then you have to address it at that level. So that's why this question is throwing me off a little bit. Asymmetry can come from multiple different vectors. Structural difference is something that is, again, structural. So if we're just talking about structural difference and that's not going away, then might be something like a scoliosis, where we really need to get into the body work to correct that side. Again, this is why body work and functional training go together. So, or I've done the body work and then the body isn't strong enough to agree to that change. And so then we need the functional training to make sure that that change actually stays. So if it's not going away, it's probably because we're coming at it from the wrong angle. We either need to go back to the bodywork side or do the functional fitness side. That's probably why it's not going away. So we change the programming based on that as a metric. If we see that and we go, oh, we're not getting a lot of traction here, let's change the way we're coming at this. Maybe the training program itself is not working correctly, or maybe we need bodywork to help that work correctly. This is honestly the equation or the reasoning behind PT plateauing. A lot of physical therapy plateaus at a level where they need to now do manual manipulation body work. So manual manipulation of soft tissue for therapeutic change to allow the body to get through that plateau, because the functional training they're trying to do isn't working anymore. The muscle tissue and the fascia has decided like, no, this is as far as I'm going to get until you tell me I can go farther, because we have to tell the fascial system like, hey, spend resources here, do tissue repair. But also this thing that you've been locking down on the mobility side, we actually have range of motion in that. You don't have to lock this down anymore. You're not injured anymore. I don't know if I talked about it last episode, but actually I'll finish up with that. Let me get through this last question here and then we'll finish up with that explanation. Question number 60.
Question 60. What is the difference between training around pain and training through pain?
We talked about that earlier. We don't train through pain if it's sharp or stabby. We don't we train around pain in the sense that we use pain as the conversation to tell us what we need to modify and what we need to be doing, and if we're doing something incorrectly. Using that plus the last question, let's finish this episode up, or finish this part of the conversation. So the functional training and Stoic bodywork methods, or Stoic methods, training methods. Let's finish it up with this. When we're talking about why someone plateaus, or why something isn't progressing forward, or why the methods, or why something isn't working, or how someone gets stuck in a certain way, the body is smarter than us, and it has more data than we do. It has all the data of you existing, touch, taste, smell, feel, all the neurological sensation, all of the body processes that are happening. It has all that information. We don't necessarily have access to that. We have to filter it through the mind. We don't have the physical health body's full information set. We have the conversation it's having with us and the things it's telling us. Now in modern medicine, we have some cool stuff like MRIs and imaging. We have lab data where we can do, blood paneling, and we can look for all of that stuff, and we can get all this data, or some of it. We can get a majority of it. No, I don't even want to say majority. We can get a lot of it. But it itself has all the data. It's got photolipids. It's got all these measurement devices that it's using constantly and knows more than we do. And so when someone plateaus, or if you're having trouble with a training methodology, or you're not seeing results, or it's either a function of time, principle of action. So if you're training principally and not just conceptually or technique, or going back to that first one, time, the body hasn't agreed to it yet. And so we need to update its program. A lot of time what I'm doing in body work is I'm getting the body to agree to a change that's already occurred that it isn't quite okay with yet, or it doesn't quite trust yet. I'm just accelerating the factor of time. A lot of injuries will heal over a course of however many weeks or so. I'm getting the functional understanding of the fascial system to agree to that change now, or accelerating that change, or reminding it the change that it hasn't made yet. So it's on this, there's a lot of different pieces here as far as like where we need to address this. And that's at my level, the practitioner level. And that's kind of actually hard to teach. But to understand it at a base value, does the tissue need to get new resources to repair itself? Well, it will stop that cycle if the inflammation becomes uncontrolled and it can't get new resources to that site to fix it. It's going to stop sending resources there because we're a highly efficient system. And again, we're always on a backlog of trying to do things. Like right now, you are existing, which means you need energy, and you are using energy, which is why you're going to get hungry eventually. You're on a backlog. You're always trying to, there's no getting ahead because it doesn't want to burn the fat cells until it absolutely needs them, because you might stop getting food tomorrow. So it's always in that survival mode. Humans are always in survival mode. We it's something we can't trigger, like as relaxed and as zen and as chill as you want to be. We're in survival mode. The physical form, the physical body is just trying to survive. This is actually one of the things that solved my mental health the most, is when I came around to the conclusion, I'm in charge. I'm responsible for this physical body. And this physical body is just trying to survive. It's doing everything it can to survive, despite me. That's a whole nother episode. But back in my heyday, when I was younger, I did everything possible to make its job harder. Just the things that I would put in my system, the way I was treating my system, I was just making it hard for it to survive. And that doesn't make hard bodies. It makes broken systems. And so I had to learn, I'm responsible. We are responsible for these physical bodies. Because we got to take care of them, because all they're trying to do is survive. And they have a whole set of data that makes them be able to do that. that we're not privy to it. We don't have access to it. We have access to some of it. It has a whole conversation system called the pain system that tells us like, hey, please stop doing that. You're overdoing it. And I don't have enough resources to fix this. And then we ignore that. And, so when we talk about the plateauing or not getting better or having a sensitivity, it's a factor of time. Bodywork helps talk to the body. I'm actually having a conversation with the body. Functional fitness talks to the body, has a conversation with the body. It tells it what's going on. It gives it a new set of data. It says like, hey, there's some dysfunction here, but I really need there not to be dysfunction there. Can we work on that? Like, let me do some 90-90 hip flows, but I'm not going to like just crank the femoral head into a position it can't actually get into. I'm just going to gently remind it like, okay, we're going to go a little farther today, a little farther today, a little farther. Slow the progression, right? Progressive overload. Progressive overload, for those of you who don't know, isn't just how much weight and when we put up the weight. And, it's also range of motion. It's also number of reps. It's also number of sets. It's also like the stressors are what the body responds to. How we organize those stressors is the training methodology. And everybody's got a fucking opinion on that. The reality, the principal understanding is the body's trying to survive, and any stressor you throw at it, it is using a data set to figure out how to survive the most efficiently. We're super efficient creatures. And so when you injure something through repetitive action, it's going to tell you to F off by being like, well, he just keeps bashing this rotator cuff. And you know what? I'm just going to let it fail because he clearly hasn't gotten the signal. And I don't have the resources to keep spending on that because it's just a waste. The body sees it as a waste of resources. It goes, I've been trying to repair this and they keep damaging it. You know what? I got to go take care of this inflammation in the gut because they just keep eating like this crappy food. So we're going to start spending some resources there. Or, oh, you know what? They do this, mental task and burn calories in the brain constantly over and over again all day long. Or they sit in this position. Like we're just constantly doing things to the body. And this doesn't mean sit still. I told you before, we have to move. This is why nutrition is so important and all the health structures. Health and wellness is a big world. The time factor is the thing that we have to accelerate or decelerate, depending on what we're doing, to figure out how to get the body to respond correctly. In body work, I accelerate the tissue's response as far as desensitization to being like, hey, the tissue, if acute care is done, and the body does its own acute care as well. If you damage tissue, it's going to repair it. So once it brings in the, collagen and the protein and makes up the fibrils and fixes everything up, it still wants to lock it down because it's not sure if it's okay yet. We have to give it the force feedback to be like, no, you're good. Your body, you're allowed to move again. And if we keep repetitively doing tasks that keep aggravating that, it's eventually going to be like, oh, I have to stop this stupid human from breaking me constantly. So I'm going to lock this down. Well, once you heal from that, once you finally realize like, oh, I have a rotator cuff issue and I should rehab that. It doesn't think you're going to stop doing that. Even if you rehab it, you're still using it. So it's going to go, I think they might break me again. I don't want them to do that. So I'm just not going to let them have full function of the tissue again. You got a little better. It's good enough, right? That's where bodywork comes in or functional training comes in and says like, hey, no tissue, hey, fascial system, hey, neurological system, which is why you need that. It all goes together. It's just, I can just keep going on and on and on and on and on. It all goes together. This was questions 46 through 60, the functional training and stoic methods. I went off on some tangents. I'm sure I'll have to cut some stuff out of this episode, but yeah, that's that for that one. Train functionally if you want to get better results. Bodywork and functional training should go together. That's the Stoic Bodywork methods. That's what it's all built upon. The human system is complex, but there are ways to go about making it super efficient and awesome at everything. Health and wellness is a big, broad world that we need to not just focus on one area on, just focus on the area that makes the most sense at the time that we can focus on and make improvements on. We'll get into the next set of questions after this on the next episode, which is industry critiques and differentiators. I'm not going to jump into that now because I'm probably going to go off on that one too. Yeah, everything's broken, but it doesn't mean everything's bad. It just means we have a lot of work to do. society has a lot of work ahead of it to work on these broken systems and find better ways and more efficient ways to do the things so we can be happy and we can be healthy in all three health bodies. That's the goal. So thank you for listening to this episode. As always, you can check out purebulk.com to get all your supplement needs taken care of. Use code Stoic Bodywork 15 to get 15% off your first order. Use Stoic Bodywork after that to get 10% off any order after that. If you are having trouble sleeping and not getting enough recovery, check out stoicbodywork.com/stoic sleep. Use code Stoic or podcast to get $5 off your first order. We ship it right to your house. I take it every night. It's awesome. You can check out manifestationstatecraft.com. Do the free first module. That's the course I created to help you increase your self-awareness and learn how to take your imagination and turn it into reality. If you're in the area, check out Stoic Bodywork. We're happy to help you with your functional training and your bodywork needs. Check out the next episode, and I'll see you there. Take care.